Engineering is one of the chapters. Marketing, education, and encouragement. So we group those together because they overlap quite a bit. So that has two of the E's plus marketing. And then evaluation and enforcement. And then we also reviewed some of your ordinances and policies and made recommendations to how to make those more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. And then we also have an implementation plan. So for the discovery phase, we looked at some of the existing plans. I think there were about 9 or so existing plans that we looked at that had both Fort Dodge plans, Webster County plans, regional plans that had some element of biking, trails, or walking within them. We went through the existing network and biked around the city and looked at what a proposed network might look like, and we did an assessment of strengths and weaknesses. We did a SurveyMonkey public opinion survey, and this is just an example of one of the questions. We had 14 questions in that survey. We had over 800 responses and 223 individual comments from individuals. This question here is asking about comfort level and biking in different places, and we use that type of information to help inform what type of facilities to include in the network. This is a question that we like to ask is what type of bicyclist are you, or what is your comfort level or your biking ability? You can see most people, 57% said that they were confident and enthused cyclists, and 28% were interested but concerned. So we really try to target that interested but concerned population because they're the ones that need a little more encouragement, a little better facilities, or something else, some more information to help them get out and bicycling. There's really only about 5% of respondents that would say that, you know what, just don't worry about me. I'm a no way, no how. I'm never going to bike. Either I'm not interested or I'm not able to bike. So we don't worry about that too much and that's a very small percentage of the population. So using the existing conditions and the public opinion survey, we were able to develop different goals. We also did work with a committee. We worked with the Trails Advisory Board and staff as we went through this process. So we came up with these 4 different goals to complete the network, to increase overall biking and walking trips for all purposes, to ensure that that network is safe, and to work on that marketing plan. And we came up with the branding system of Prairie Rivers Trail System. So for the network itself, we developed a series of maps. The map you see here is the existing and proposed network for the city of Fort Dodge, and it has the trails and on-street bike facilities and also destinations for people who are biking and walking. We have additional maps that show the other amenities that you see listed there, from signage and drinking fountains, parking, art, and benches. The facility types themselves are kind of broken down into 2 larger categories. One is just trails, where you have paved trails, unpaved trails, and then also soft trails. Soft trails are more like your mountain biking trails. Within the on-street system, you have signed bike routes, shared lane markings, bike lanes, and paved shoulders. And I'm going to talk about each of those just briefly. Here's your trail facility types with what you're probably pretty familiar with: paved trails, unpaved trails, and then some softer mountain biking type of trails. For the on-street system, there are signed bike routes where really it's just a sign. There's not any pavement markings or dedicated space in the travel lane. So you want to have that on like a slower, low-volume roadway. Shared lane markings are when you have that chevron marking in the road. You have some of those in Fort Dodge already. So we have some proposed additional areas for that. Bike lanes are dedicated just for bicyclists. We have some of those proposed in different areas throughout the city as well, and you are familiar with those too. And then, of course, paved shoulders are on more rural roadways where you basically are just paving the shoulder of that rural roadway, and it may or may not have signage. It typically doesn't have any pavement markings, but it's a suitable space for bicyclists. And we have to think also about the intersection. So when a trail or a bike facility intersects with another roadway or another bicycle facility. So some of these are good just for bicyclists and some are for bikes and pedestrians as well. The signal detection for bicyclists is if you have, say, a bike lane or a shared roadway and there's a signalized intersection, the bicyclist alone doesn't usually trigger a signalized light to change from red to green. But if you put in a loop detector, then they can make that light change. The active warning beacons like you have in town are good for bikes and pedestrians both, especially in places where a trail is crossing a roadway, especially mid-block. Bike signal heads is kind of hard to see, but I don't know if you can see the little green light there is actually a bicycle symbol. So bike signal heads are exclusively for bicyclists, and that gives them a green when everybody else has a red. So it's a phase exclusive for cyclists. So you might want to think about that if you get a particular intersection that is either complicated to cross or that might have a really high volume of bicyclists. As you start to track bicycling into the future and more people are bicycling, you might get some volumes that are higher that you might want to consider that. Pavement markings through the intersection. Again, if there's bicycle lanes or shared lane markings in a particular area, if it becomes unclear of where the bicyclist should be in the intersection, you might want to paint that, that pathway through the intersection. And then the last one is either a raised crosswalk or a raised intersection. And those are good for both bikes and pedestrians. It raises up, literally raises up where the bicyclists and the pedestrians are, so they're a little bit more visible. And it brings awareness to that person crossing the intersection. And also as the cars move through, you know, they have to go over that, so it becomes a traffic calming measure. Within the network itself, then, we broke it down into 3 priority levels, with high being kind of the low-hanging fruit, what we can do easily and quickly, and that is really important to the network. Medium are still important connections, but maybe we need some more time to acquire some more funding. And low is areas that maybe can wait a little bit longer as more development occurs or more funding is made available. Within each one of those priority levels, there may be multiple phases, so it's not that the whole plan will be done in 3 phases. It can be multiples within those categories. So for the marketing, education, and encouragement, basically there was a goal to increase awareness both locally and regionally. And we pointed out that there are a lot of existing resources that can be used to help spread that awareness. There's sites like Bike Iowa, there's Iowa Tourism, there's different ways that you can reach out to existing resources to let your amenities be known. Information should be easily accessible. You already have some great trail signage. That's a wonderful way to make information easily accessible. It should also be like kept up to date on Google Maps and kept up to date on your website. And then to expand the network and programming to get people out, especially that interested but concerned category, to get people out trying new things through different programs. For enforcement, this is about cooperation with the police department in a large part by making sure that the police department has maps of the trail system, that they know where they can get on with a vehicle, that they are up to date on what the laws and ordinances are, especially as we go through a process and maybe update some of those ordinances to make sure that they're engaged in that process. If officers have bicycles, that gives them a whole new perspective of what it's like to bike on the streets and on the trails and what challenges bicyclists might be facing. These are some of the ordinances and policies that we looked at. So we went through each one of those. They're included in the plan and along with some recommendations for how they might be adjusted to be a little bit more bicycle friendly. Some of those we had model ordinances for, the Complete Streets one and the bicycle ordinance. There were some model ordinances that had been looked at in other communities and already kind of gone through a whole vetting system. So we used those for guidance on those. For evaluation of the system, this involves tracking a lot of things and counting a lot of things. But that's really the only way that you know how you're progressing is to be able to show an existing condition compared to a future condition. There is some guidance on how to count bicycles and pedestrians on trails and on streets. That's the National Bicycle and Pedestrian Documentation Project, so that is a good resource to look at for one way to do actually manual counts of bicyclists and pedestrians. You can also do more passive counts through infrared trail counters, and there's other ways to do that. But this is just one example. And then also within the plan, we have some maintenance guidelines of how to maintain that trail system and also an on-street bicycle system. So as far as keeping, bicyclists are more susceptible to cracks in the roadway or to bumps or debris in a bike lane. Snow removal, of course, is included in here as well, and that varies jurisdiction to jurisdiction of how people, different communities remove snow on their trail system. For the implementation, we'd like to point out that it's not just Fort Dodge's job to implement a bike master plan. It's everybody's, really. it's a cooperation between the city and multiple departments and the county and multiple departments, and also community members. So we'll go into that a little bit more. For each one of the goals, we have identified a list of objectives as well. And then also, when you look at the plan itself, we also have some more detailed action steps to be taken to fulfill those objectives and goals. And with those action steps, we also have identified who the leader could be and who those partners could be. So they're not all led by just one department. So this first goal is really just about completing the system, making sure that the right type of facility is used on each corridor, ensuring those ordinances and policies are updated, and following that priority plan. Increasing trips, one of the best ways to do that is just through a lot of encouragement efforts and making biking fun and enjoyable and getting people out to try that as a new thing. So there's a lot of examples of ways to do that. And that's a good example of an area that people other than the city can be leaders in that. So a nonprofit group, a club, pretty much anybody can come up with some sort of event or celebration or way to get people out biking. Our goal 3 is about safety. Safety, of course, is always of utmost importance. So this is about partly the individual's responsibility to know the laws and follow the trail etiquette and be responsible in their biking on trails and on streets, but also to make those trail etiquettes and rules known. And then, of course, there's the maintenance issue of those bikeways and to ensure that the laws are equitable and that they're equitably enforced. And the last goal was to develop a marketing plan. So we came up with these objectives and the branding for Prairie Rivers Trail System. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, there's increasing that local and regional awareness of the system, using those partnerships and those existing resources so you're not recreating the wheel on a lot of these things, making sure the information is easily accessible, and wanting to increase public support for the trail system overall. And so that it's not just people that are biking that are fighting for a good trail system, but maybe even people that don't bike can see the value in that for their community and also support it. With that, I was told to be quick.
I had a couple of questions. First off, I appreciate the depth and knowledge that you exhibited in your examples, because it was like 187 pages that we read through.
Yes.
But we have a lot of development going on in town, residential development. Have you looked at future expansion out to the areas where we're going to see new housing, new people moving in? And I'm going to include in that the fact that we have a lot of downtown economic development going too, with the Phillips Middle School and the Warden Project and connectivity to the trails from those two locations.
Well, I think as far as new development, as you're referring to things more on the outskirts, I think we address that more through our policies and like the complete street policy and things like that. I was looking at Carissa to see if she has any other thoughts. And then as far as downtown, we were looking at existing conditions, and then as things develop, certainly certain recommendations could change to better suit new development.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
I think that's probably the gist of it.
And my last comment is, there's some way you could get the trails to all go downhill, so it'd be easier for me to get to them.
Well, you can get one of those like e-assist bikes so that you can go go up with a little motor assist.
I have a question. I'm not sure if this is the forum, but I'm a biker. I'm just maybe more of a casual biker. But yesterday I was out, and the corner of 5th Avenue South and 32nd Street, very active corner, by Blue Ribbon.
Right over by Blue Ribbon.
Right, by Blue Ribbon. And trying to, as a biker, trying to cross 5th Avenue South, you're not sure where to go off the trail onto the trail across to the south. I mean, the lines aren't very, very well defined. And so I don't know, do we talk to the city about that? Or, I mean, it's almost dangerous. Do I go east or do I go south, and when do I go? And having those little bike
Like the chevron, the shared lane markings.
yeah, that would be nice. And so, and the same thing even north of there at 2nd Avenue North and 32nd Street. Not sure when we need a bike sign there as well. But I think that's encouraging what you have to say. But I would encourage anybody that bikes, is that what we do? Is bikers just go to the city and say, I think this is what we need? Make public aware of what we need?
Yeah, I think so, especially if there's more than just one person
Yeah.
saying that this is an issue, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I don't know if many people cross at Fifth Avenue South, but there's street repairs going on south. But eventually, if we make that loop, there'll be more and more people crossing Fifth Avenue South, and we just need to have better stripes and better lights there for bikers.
Supposed to do? No, do. What we're supposed to do is on the crosswalk to the cemetery, because there's a little lane there, and then cross the other way over to across 32nd Street to get on a bike. Now, I know what I do when I'm more comfortable. I just act like I'm a car and go straight across Fifth Avenue South, and at some point down where the stick cat,
Yeah.
car, because it's south by 32nd, there's a little bit of trail.
Mm-hmm.
You get on 32nd, you act like a car, across the street, act like a car, and then they have an opportunity.
I think this is the intersection that Chad told me was going to be improved, so
Okay.
that crossing will be better,
Yeah, and the next phase is
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. But that's one example. I think if citizens were to, like you and I are talking, and Jeff probably, that really needs to have some thought and input into that intersection. Mhm.
I have like two things. When I look at this in more detail over the weekend, there were two things that I would say came to a surprise to me. One of those is how the loop will be finished. Because my understanding of how it will be finished is not reflected on this. My other question or thought is the rationale of not paving the nature trails, specifically between areas of which are already paved. And also additional parts that future shows that they would be paved. So we would be taking existing or proposed paved trail, acquiring property, it's on the agenda for this evening, and paving that down to an unpaved trail. And I just didn't know if there was something that I'm missing that would be a reason for that, why that makes sense.
I guess I need some more specifics of where you're talking about.
And that's doing that big.
I can go help a little.
So here's the city map and county map.
So there is the crushed limestone trail that kind of runs diagonally
Crawford Nature Trail,
through town.
which we had identified as that always being rock.
Okay.
So I'll try to address that a little bit. When we sat and were talking about the existing trails and the Fort Dodge Nature Trail, for some of that have been on this on the council for a while. When I took over in 2005, we were doing our first couple big phases.
I've heard this side of it.
Okay.
I'm curious from an engineering side why this is best.
I don't think that analysis was done from an engineering side. It was just done as a compromise between trail users and runners and bikers, that keeping as one section of the community and soft trails was important, and it just kind of came to this compromise on Snell. And I know that we've talked, you and I have talked at the commission, you had talked about maybe some options of paving the entrances and keeping it soft here. So that there's nothing that was engineered. It was not really discussed because it was an existing trail that we kept in the inventory as a soft trail. So we did not identify it through this master planning segment with Snyder. And as for your second one, the trail loop, are you talking about from Shimcat to Olson and down to Sunkist? Is that the loop?
Specifically, how we would connect from 15th Avenue south to the river. That's the long ways. And it's my understanding that the majority of what is proposed in this master plan doesn't match what my understanding of how it's going to be.
Chad?
Chad is not
Yeah.
here.
And David, I know that it was when we all walked, are you talking about the one that goes straight past, down to Olson? I don't think that has been reflective on this one, this map. It doesn't,
This is what we have.
yeah, it's, the loop is just,
Most of my colleagues know that I'm one that if we're gonna pay money to get a plan done, I don't wanna be deciding a month later, 3 months later, and 6 months later, and a year later that that plan is wrong because we need to change this. I'd rather do that ahead of time.
would you like to have that reflected on here as a long? That's not that difficult at all to do that. With the actual plan that you're,
It hasn't been reflected
and that's an easy one to do on that map.
very well.
Carissa and Mindy are gonna be
Moving the off 17th Street to the backyard.
Correct.
you're talking about going straight down
But in this plan, it
into the
does not
river.
indicate that.
Right. It's the one that we go right past Olson, go past,
Sure, it's not the same thing. If you're talking the trail going north out of Olson to get to the Mason Trail, I think
Oh.
you're talking about going straight
The one-
down the extension.
That's what I
50
am.
south, all the way to the river.
that's the one I was
You
talking
leave
about.
Olson and need to go north to get to Mason. What's that map?
That is the map that I showed you on pictometry that's been outlined. It does reflect going through Olson Park with road conversion through Olson, going out north of Olson, behind those homes.
So would it make sense that what our actual plan is to do would be reflected in this?
Is it not?
I don't,
Isn't this Mason Drive right here?
it's the, I don't know the name of it. It's through there.
And paved trail? Yeah, this one right here.
Or sideways.
Oh.
So next 17th over,
I think it is.
and then on Mason.
I believe from what I saw, this shows it having a bike lane on 17th.
So is the route the same, it's just the facility type the route is different?
Bike lane, it would be a bike paved trail. Because it would run right into the back end of that dead end.
Okay, you're right, that's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So we'll get that.
So it would be, the best thing to do would be to table it so it reflects that change.
No, I don't think tabling it, we can go, and if your motion would be a part of, because they're still doing some small edits between Mindy and
We
Carissa
haven't-
already.
We haven't secured engineering yet to even draw that.
That's getting done through that's being done through Dave Oder. Dave Oder is engineering that section of the trail. From north, going all the way from Shimcat to Olson, and North Olson down to Sunkist is being engineered through Dave Oder in the planning department.
Yeah, I don't know if our engineering department was aware of that.
Dave, O-
That's not here.
okay.
We'll make sure that
You,
he does.
yeah, it's up to you. If you'd like to table tonight to make sure you have these questions answered, I'm under that assumption because I met with them.
Okay.
The only one that they are not doing is Olson
One
Park.
thing that through all of these stages that I've asked to be nailed down.
Yeah. I'm saying, from my understanding, because I was with Dave and Tony and Chad and myself when we were talking about Olson Park. Olson Park section is out and is with ISG, but everything else is being engineered through planning. So if something's changed, that's a possibility. So for your notes, you want to make sure the loop is, we're going to correct that loop, and then number 2,
It's just unpaved to paved.
okay,
So just correct that loop.
just to correct the loop.
So are we leaving the short lane markings there?
I have-
This is
I
going to
have
be a
one more
paved
question.
trail.
Right, but are we leaving this here?
No, that will go out. 'Cause
I have
we're
an
not gonna go
additional
down
question, if you're done. It kind of piggybacks
Seven. I
on
don't know if
that.
I'm done.
I'm not a big fan of bike trails on city streets, in any form or fashion because I think they're a danger and a hazard to the bike riders. And I was just wondering if you can account on the 18 crashes that you document in your study, if any of those were on the streets or on the trails, or how those were classified, if you know that off the top of your head.
I don't off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
That title was from-
So Councilman Halter, we'll pull item N from the consent agenda and discuss it then, and then we'll go from there.
You can always make a motion contingent on them amending the plan like they told you you would, so you don't have to table it if you want.
Well, we don't have table, we'll still have to pull it, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess I would be of the agreement with Councilman Menke, if there's a way to make that loop go, like maybe what you're talking about, Lori, loop that off 15th Avenue South down to the river, instead of having go, I don't like the street idea either, so long-term.
The only street is going to be a little small connection on getting to Mason Drive. The rest will be off-street trail.
Is Mason Drive considered a street?
Right now, and that is the recommendation coming out of this, is to make that a conversion as well. And that is not, that's just the recommendation, nothing's been done yet, nothing's come to council yet.
Like it,
The recommendation?
To make Mason Drive a conversion from a road to a trail, so no more traffic. So that was one of the,
That's the way I'd always understood.
I can tell you the Pleasant Valley community does not support that action.
and I think you had made mention at one of our commission meetings, unless there was an alternate road that was done.
Right,
And I
correct.
think they're working on that as far as I know.
Okay, any other questions?
So I just want to make sure that Chris and I have what we need to be correcting, and just to make sure that you all have clear direction. So Mark, they could pull it from the consent agenda and approve it with one or two issues that they've had right now. A, the loop that we need on Sunkist, or out of Olson. And number two, I think that was, I have to go get my notes.
That's it.
I really like the detail in the report. I thought it was very good.
Yeah, it was just some of the comments that we have on from Dave about the crossings, and David was right. Chad is working on that, lining that
Okay.
up on Fifth Avenue South and
Great.
32nd Street. And the nature trail comment here, so I don't know where you want me to go with that one.
I just wanted to know if it was engineers that identified that that was the best use, or if it was just other people's opinions.
It was users' opinions. From Lori's world, it was users' opinions. It was not an engineered.
That was the answer I expected. Makes me believe that my opinion is of the better opinion.
Well, what's going to be nice is that as we start working in our Snell Crawford master plan, we'll have an opportunity to discuss that.
When I brought that up at the commission meeting, it didn't appear that that was the right place to do that. But I will try again.
Yep, I hope so.
Thank you, Mindy.
After that.
Good report.
All right. Thanks, Mindy.
Okay, that'll conclude our workshop. We'll start in about a minute with our regularly scheduled council meeting. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. Mayor Benrick is absent. He is sick tonight, and so is Councilman, what's his name? Allstadt. We'll begin this meeting. First of all, call for the clerk to call for the attendance.
Mayor Bemrick, council members Flattery,
Here.
Halter. Here. Conrad.
Here.
Schur.
Here.
Allstott. Menke. Hill.
Please rise for the allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We begin each meeting with the character count statement. Fort Dodge is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. With that, we'll move to item 2, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I would make a motion to approve the agenda removing item 8A.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with removing item 8A. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the table? A call for the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimously. Any good news?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we had the Taste of Kosovo event on Friday night, which was the biggest fundraising event Willow Ridge has ever held. We had 140 people show up, maybe 138 since a couple people bought tickets and didn't show up. But it was a very good turnout and going to a very good cause, and look forward to it again next year.
Thank you, Terry, and I know you've done a good job trying to sell those tickets and get that organized, and thank you. Moving to item 3, a public hearing.
Public hearing and proposed plan specification, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2018 lane striping project in the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
I declare this public meeting open and ask the clerk if there was any public comments.
There were no written comments.
Okay, any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll close that public hearing and move on to item 3A.
Resolution approving plans and specification, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2018 lane striping project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve the plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the striping project.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the table?
I have one quick comment. I don't know if it's included in the bid, but something that I might be open to a change order on, I think I brought it up before, is that Kenyon Road stretch over by Leah Lane. At nighttime, it's almost impossible to see those stripings out there. So if there's, I don't know if there's something else we can do with that striping to make it a little more visible, but I think I'd be open to a change order to include something like that out there.
I'll look into it.
Any other comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show that passed unanimously. Move on to item 3B.
Resolution awarding contract for the 2018 lane striping project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa to Iowa Plains Signing Incorporated in the amount of $50,485.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve the contract for Iowa Plains signing.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Comments from the table? My only comment, is this who we always have had?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show that passed unanimously. Moving on to 4, civil service and other appointments, 4A.
Resolution to appoint police officer Harmon Atwood.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve the appointment of Police Officer Herman Atwood.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the table? Call for the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show that passed unanimously. Chief?
Roger Porter, Fort Dodge. I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate Harmon. For those of you that don't know, becoming a police officer is a very lengthy process. A lot of steps go into coming to this point right here before you even get your career started. Many months have gone by. He's made himself available to answer all those questions and get accomplished what needed to be accomplished. Mr. Atwood is a graduate of West Bend Mallard High School. He has been in the Army National Guard as a combat medic for the last 3 years. He's going to start with us tomorrow officially, and then he will leave. He will only be here a short time after getting some logistical things done, and then he will start the academy on April 30th, and then he'll be gone there for a while, and then we're excited to get him back here and get him working. So we still have one more opening going, and we'll be tested for that here in June, but he has made the cut. In attendance today is his dad, Tom, his mom, Barb, and his girlfriend, Emma. And his mother's going to be pinning on his badge for him today. So she's going to be very careful, she said, out there. With a very sharp, long pin there. So.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's been pretty fun, and look forward to working in the city of Fort Dodge and getting to know everyone better. So.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Let's move on to item 5, committee and department reports and correspondence. Let's start with the proclamations first. First of all, do we have anybody here from Older Americans Month 2018? Crimmins, is that you? Okay, come up to the podium.
I'm not an older American, by the way.
Okay, this is a proclamation. All right, I'll read it for you. Whereas the city of Fort Dodge includes countless older Americans who enrich and strengthen our community. And whereas the city of Fort Dodge is committed to engaging and supporting older adults, their families, and caregivers. And whereas we acknowledge the importance of taking part in activities that promote physical, mental, and emotional well-being, no matter your age. And whereas the city of Fort Dodge can enrich the lives of individuals of every age by promoting home and community-based services that support independent living, involving older adults in community planning, events, and other activities, and providing opportunities for older adults to work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, David M. Flattery, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Fort Dodge, Iowa, do hereby proclaim May 18th to be Older Americans Month 2018. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You have anything to say?
Yeah, I want to thank the City of Fort Dodge for supporting older adults. I'm from Elderbridge Agency on Aging. Our office is down at 308 Central. I want to thank the city for supporting the Senior Center and Lori. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Dawn, do you want the mayor to sign this? You want me to sign it, and then we'll give it to him later?
I'll mail it to him or drop it off to him
Okay,
after the mayor
very good.
signs it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Okay, our second proclamation, do we have anybody here for Arbor Day? Oh, Kevin, sure. Hi, Kevin. How you doing? Okay, this is a proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas Trees can reduce the erosion of precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperatures, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. The city of Fort Dodge, for 36 consecutive years, has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation. And whereas the city wishes to continue its tree planting to increase the value of its trees through improved maintenance and care. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, David M. Flattery, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Fort Dodge, Iowa, do here proclaim that Friday, April 27th, 2018, was celebrated as Arbor Day. Okay, Gavin, go ahead.
Thank you, David. Boy, these years fly by. Seemed like I was just up here. It's been a whole year. I want to thank David and then the mayor and the council for the support of the forestry department year after year. It's kind of demanding with the Emerald Ash Borer, but we're plugging away. We're over halfway. So I want to thank you again. And Friday, the fun stuff of Arbor Day is planting a tree. So if everybody can get out and plant a tree Friday, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yep, thank you.
I seen Roger around here. Where'd Roger go? Roger, Poppy Days. Welcome again.
Yeah, back again.
Okay, this is a proclamation for Poppy Days. Whereas Iowa is a land of freedom, preserved and protected willingly and freely by citizens, soldiers, and whereas millions who have answered the call to arms have died on the field of battle, and whereas a nation of peace must be reminded of the price of war and the debt owed to those who have died in war, and whereas the red poppy has been designated as a symbol of sacrifice of our lives in all wars, and whereas the VFW Post 1856 and the Ladies Auxiliary have pledged to remind America annually of this debt through the distribution of the memorial flower. Now therefore be it resolved that I, David M. Flattery, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Fort Dodge, Iowa, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 27th as Poppy Days in the City of Fort Dodge.
Thank you.
You have anything to say,
Okay.
Roger, again?
Well, this is probably my 18th year of doing this. I always follow Kevin in Arbor Days. It seems like we're always here together. We'll be out to Hy-Vee, Fairway, and Walgreens. The money that we raise right now, or Walmart, well, the money we raise now goes to the veterans, whether they need hearing aids, if they need transportation to see a doctor, they need dentures or whatever. We, as a post, try to help our veterans out, and we thank the council and the mayor for this proclamation. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. Okay, David, do you want to do your spring cleanup schedule?
It's kind of funny it's on the agenda because
Yeah.
the change has already taken place. So, yeah, because of the snow last week, we moved what would have been the Monday collection route for spring cleanup to today. So we clean it today. Now, the rest of the days are going to be the same. So this Wednesday is the Tuesday route. Next Wednesday, the Wednesday after is the Thursday, and then the final Wednesday was the old Friday route. We don't have a Friday route anymore, but the southwest part of town. So the change has already taken place, and it was today.
Okay, good. Any other department reports? Come on up.
Yeah, I'm Luke Huggins, a board member on the Main Street Fort Dodge Group, also the SMID district here in town. Just recently, the Main Street Iowa held their awards celebration, and during that, they give awards out to major projects and accomplishments, and most importantly, people who play the major parts in those. And at this banquet, our local Steve Peterson was recognized by the governor for the Main Street Iowa Leadership Award. So I just want to talk a little bit about Steve today because I've had the privilege to get to know him over the years, and he's been a good mentor and leader for a lot of different things. And when I agreed to be part of the Main Street and was fortunate enough to be on this board, I knew I was stepping into something that was there for progress and success because of the trajectory that he helped put it on. So he was the president of SMID last year, and so he really led the effort in becoming a Main Street community for Fort Dodge. You probably saw him out raising awareness in many different ways at service clubs and on the radio. So he put a lot of time into this. And so overall, I'm here today. I want to present him with the Fort Dodge, well, on behalf of the Fort Dodge Main Street program and on behalf of the governor, presenting the plaque for the Leadership Award for Main Street, Iowa.
Thank you, Luke. It has been my pleasure to serve in Fort Dodge on the Schmid board, and now most recently on the Main Street Fort Dodge project. And it was quite an honor to attend this ceremony 2 weeks ago on Friday and to receive. Well, actually, Carissa stole my plaque and hid it from me for a while. But it's really nice to receive this plaque this evening, and I just want to thank the City Council and the Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, for all the hard work that you guys have done with us to move Fort Dodge forward from the crosstown connector to the various projects in the downtown. Without your collaboration and your support, we would not have accomplished all the good things that have been going on in the community recently. And so thank you very much.
Congratulations, Steve. Thank you, Luke. Any other department reports? Seeing none, let's move on to item 6, comments and questions from the public. First of all, any comments or questions from the public not on the agenda? How about any comments on the consent agenda? Seeing none, let's move on to item 7, the consent agenda. Nevin?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing items J, M, and O for separate votes.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, removing items J, M, and O. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Let the record show that pass unanimously. Let's move on to item J of the consent agenda.
Resolution setting a public hearing for the disposition of property at 2nd Avenue South and South 9th Street. Public hearing was scheduled for May 14th at 6 p.m.
I would move item J.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the table?
I pulled this item. I like the project. I like the way it incorporates the neighborhood. However, with all the question marks we have in regards to the warden and the rec center, I don't think that this is the right time to be giving up city-owned land when we have that major project so close. Again, I like it, but I just don't think it's the right time.
Any other comments?
This is basically just setting a public
Just a public hearing.
There's
Right.
no action taken tonight.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I respect Nevin's opinion, but again, I think with the $9 million parking garage that we're looking at, or intermodal parking facility, adjacent to the Warden Plaza rec project, I think parking in downtown is going to change dramatically, and I think this is a great project, and I hope we get some good bids.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Let's call for a roll call. Councilman Hill. Aye. Councilman Menke. Aye. Councilman Schur.
Aye.
I guess you probably should be doing this, but I'll do it myself. Councilman Halter.
Aye.
Councilman Conrad.
Nay.
And Councilman Flattery says hi. Aye.
Aye.
Well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 5 in favor and 6 opposed, all right? We'll get that straight.
5 in favor, 1 opposed.
5 and 1, okay. Very good. Yes, I am. Thank you. Okay, let's do better on item M here.
Resolution adopting hike and bike WC bicycle, pedestrian, and trails master plan for Webster County and Fort Dodge, Iowa.
I would prefer to see the plan be updated to reflect how the loop will be completed.
Just a second here. We need a motion to.
Yeah, my motion is to table it.
Need to ask for a second, Dave?
I'd ask for a second. So that failed.
Right.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So then I will make a motion to approve it with the connection leaving the north end of Olson Park to use the right-of-way that exists behind the houses that are on 17th Street, specifically the west side of 17th Street, and will utilize the right-of-way that exists behind those houses going north until we reach the part that me and Lori and some other engineers walked through, to then make the connection up to where the most southern part of 15th Street dead ends right near the High Trestle Bridge. And that section will be a paved 10-foot bike trail, recreational trail, paved trail, 10 feet wide.
Is that a motion?
That's my motion.
Could we abbreviate that, Tony?
I'm not sure how to.
Do we have a second?
You can have ask for a second on that one, and if it would fail, then you can move on to it as it exists.
Okay, do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Or Tony, come on up.
Tony Trotter, city engineer. I got in here late, sorry about that, but I wanted to clear up some of the design stuff. Engineering staff is designing the trail that you just talked about.
Which engineering staff are you aware
City,
of that's doing
me, and Dave Odor.
Okay, because I was just told it was Mr. Odor.
He's part of the engineering staff.
Oh, I thought he was from the county.
No, he works for the city.
Okay, you're correct.
So I just want to clear that up, and then the whole Mason Drive. We haven't made that determination yet. We've got to do counts on the road and some other investigation. So, when we get all our facts in front of us, we'll have a proposal. But the trail will go down Mason Drive one way or another. The road closure at this point I don't think is pertinent until we have all the facts in front of us.
Okay.
At this point, we're not determining any construction details. This is just
Right.
approving the plan.
Yep,
Is that
yep.
correct?
That shows the trail going down Mason Drive.
Okay, any other questions, comments for Tony? Thank you, Tony. Any other comments from the table? Seeing none, a call for the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, let's call for a roll call again.
Can I pause for a second? Was the motion that was made in basically what we had talked about prior to the meeting?
I thought the motion was made that the trail is going to go behind the houses along 17th Street and through the right-of-way, and then the park, and then up 15th Street, and then down Mason Drive. The plan, so the line on the map, on the plan is going to show that. You're not making a motion to close Mason Drive or not at this time?
No, all I was removing was that it would be bike trail on, I believe it was 17th Street and 8th Avenue South, and showing how it would be a paved 10-foot trail, and gave the route that has been explained to me that it
The
would.
one that I showed you on pictometry and the one that Chad has shown you, is that the one that you want that shows that once you cut over, it goes towards the trestle.
Correct.
It's the one on pictometry that we've shown you. So
Correct.
if it's that one, I'm clear. I'm clear. 10-foot paved.
But is it clear in the motion then? Is that okay?
I believe we voted.
Well, we haven't closed out the vote yet.
Okay.
Because there hasn't been a roll call vote yet.
Yeah, we need to do a roll
I
call
think
vote.
Nevin just had asked, are we clear? But now I am. I was confused about the trestle comment, but now if it's the one that we've shown you, then I'm good with all that.
Is that this one?
That's the one.
That appears to be it.
Was that in the plan?
Not on the master plan.
Was that in the plan?
That's the segment that we are, it showed it going up 17th as a paved on-road trail. And this is the change that we have to make based off of the motion that is on the table.
And this is what we're currently designing, with the exception of the 10-foot trail on 15th from the Trestle Trail to Mason Drive. That was on, what we're designing is on-street there, but if you make that change, then we can adjust it.
My motion did not address that,
That's what I meant.
because that wasn't my concern.
Not that 2-block section.
I just thought that what our engineers have mapped out here would match and be reflected in our master plan that we're being asked to adopt.
And I don't know if that was done in air, but we've done a lot of work already back there surveying and
So just thought that those things would match, and that simply making a motion to just table it, waiting 2 weeks, getting those things to match and come back wasn't that big of a deal.
Is the council comfortable with this? And when we're calling for, I'll call for a roll call vote here.
This is just basically to reflect this on the master plan.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
It's just the one change on the map that you saw that we would be editing that to reflect this. And then that was the only change that we had in the master plan.
I'm comfortable with it. Okay, let's call for roll call. Jeff?
Okay. Flattery.
Aye.
Halter. Conrad.
Aye.
Sure.
Aye.
Minky.
Nay.
Hill.
Let the record show that 5 in favor and 1 against, correct?
Correct.
All right. Let's move on to item O.
Resolution approving the acquisition of real property needed for the North 22nd Street Trail connection.
I will make a motion for item O.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the table?
The reason that I asked for this to be pulled is because the funding that is being utilized for this is the same funding that was set aside to finish the loop. So I just want people to be aware that if we get to a point where we're short to finish the loop by, say, $100,000, that this is coming out of that same enhanced Iowa fund that we had set aside to finish that loop. So I would hope that we would complete that before we go forward with completing this section, but sometimes you got to buy property when it's available, and location, location, location.
And I think there's, in addition to that, Councilman Halter, there's a public safety element. This is like the only trailhead along that Northwoods Trail, and to get to it, you have to access North 22nd Street, which is very dangerous. So this would make it more convenient to get to the trail instead of having to go up North 22nd Street. Any comments from the public? I should have started that. Any comments, and additional comments from the table? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show that passed unanimously. Moving on to item 8, ordinances and amendments. We're removing 8A. Let's move on to 8B.
First consideration of ordinance number 2285, an ordinance providing for stormwater management, establishing fees, and effective with the start of FY 2018-19.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve the first consideration of ordinance number 2285.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the table?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor Pro Temp, I will not be supporting this at this time. January 1st, we added a $3.50 to the water bill, plus a 2% increase, plus a 2% to the sanitary sewer fee, and then next year we'll be adding another $3.50. So I just think that the increases are getting a little out of hand, and so I will not be supporting it.
Okay, thank you, Dean.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I will be supporting this. As Dean did mention, we have had some fee increases. The $3.50 increase was a state mandate in order to get the reverse osmosis system out at the water plant, so we didn't have much control over that. And the fee increases over the last few years have all been planned out years in advance, and we're well aware of that. And it's one way to keep up with inflation and also the costs associated with keeping our citizens safe and comfortable.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Anybody else?
Yeah, really, the increases in this area is really to keep up with inflation from when we originally added it.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Clerk, let's call for roll call.
Flattery.
Aye.
Halter.
Aye.
Conrad.
Aye.
Sure.
Aye.
Minky. Hill.
Let the record show that 5 voted in favor and 1 opposed. Move on to item 9, comments and questions from the public. Again, any comments from the public? Seeing none, call for motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. That concludes our council meeting. Thank you all for coming.
Do we need a vote?
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All right, sorry.